Hey, this is Doc Solo from Ka-Pow, the Comic Art Academy, the real art school for real people with real lives, taught by real industry pros. And on this installment of Art2Art, we dive deeper down the well with incredible animator and character designer CORAN KIZER STONE. This is part 2 of my intimate sit down with this amazing artist and animator. And this brother is so personable and engaging. I'm sure you'll get a lot of value out of this. Now remember, Art2Art is just a sit down. It's just a conversation between two artists that are willing to kind of go there with one another and engage one another on a level that many people rarely get to see. And so if you're an aspiring artist or animator in this case, and you want to know that you're not alone and that your journey may have more in common with another artist than you may realize, and you might see that Art2Art is the place for you. So sit back and enjoy this second installment of Art2Art with CORAN, the Kizerella Stone. Check it out.
And I tell myself, no, this is years of information acquisition. That's I don't know what all of it is, you know. So no,
so
you validated my theory.
A lot of that stuff is I'll film it and then I'll turn my camera off and I'll start drawing a little bit more and then I'll just sort of film it at a different angle, and then I'll edit it all together. But majority of the stuff is freehand.
When I tell you, man, it is and I'm not here's the funny thing. Again, I'm an old cat. I do not like social media by and large. Even this is for the sake of my businesses, right? And my studio and my school. But by and large, if I didn't have this, I probably would not be on social media. Okay, I'm not big on watching other people. I'm not a voyeur. I'm not live vicariously. My feed is very much curated. You know, I don't follow a lot of people. But when I tell your stuff is fun, and like I may watch it like 6, 7, 8 times when you post something. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, it's fun. It's joyful, and that's one of the things that
it makes me want to do it more now.
Well, I hope so, man. Because if I know that's me, let's scale that. You dig what I'm saying? Let's multiply that times a couple of 100,000. You know, and the access that and the reach that it gives you. You are influencing, in the truest sense, a lot of artists, even us old cats. At least me. You know, because when I think of, like, I have a story in my studio that requires a more animated look. I wanted an animated aesthetic. I'm doing another one that has a manga, anime aesthetic. I have another one that has the iconic superhero. I have another one that has an American Saturday morning cartoon aesthetic. And because I'm a one-man show, I'm able to do all of those. But when I think of that open energy line, dynamic poses, excellent geometric manipulation, like your primitives that you use. I'm like, he's really creating something out of a lot of primitive shapes, and he's just putting it together very nicely. You know what I mean? You're straight against curved. I'm like, you know where to hit it, and that's another. Again, we know from the industry, you kind of have to know when to put that curve against that straight, or it's going to look weird. You know what I mean? You know, it's just not going to work right. Man, I've learned just so much just from watching your stuff and trying to deconstruct it. You know, it's impressive, man. It's some good stuff.
Yeah. Now, when it comes to style, I realized now I never really paid that much attention to like trying to acquire a style. I didn't even know that people were, you know, it's like, how'd you get your style? Because I get that, like, it seems like every couple of weeks. How'd you get your style? You know, this and that. And I was like, I've never focused on a style. I just focused on drawing.
It kind of evolves, doesn't it? It kind of evolves by acquisition of things that you enjoy.
Yeah, it's kind of like asking somebody, like, how'd you start walking the way you walk? I was like,
where'd that swag come from?
Yeah. You know, it's like, but like the other day, some girl, very pretty girl, She said, you have sort of the hippie vibe to you. I was like, do I? I didn't even know that. I thought I was just dressing up in,
Do you like it? How about them digits? No.
Go ahead and just give me the digits. But, here's the phone.
I want to put that in there real quick. I might call you. Put that in there real quick. I might call you.
I might ring you up just every once in a while. See what you're doing.
I love it.
Yeah. See what your bed's up to. But yeah, man, like I never sort of focused on a particular style, and I think that's I think when what do you call it, when aspiring artists ask that question, I think sometimes they're just focusing on the wrong things. It's like it's really about, especially when you go to their page and you realize, oh, they don't know how to draw that good, but yet they want to know the brushes and the and what
the stuff that really doesn't matter. Stuff that
really
doesn't matter. Kind of cart before the horse, right?
Yeah. They think that the brushes, the tools like the Procreate and the iPad and all that stuff.
Ain't no cheat codes.
Yeah, they think that's going to make them like accelerate in art sometimes, and I'm like, you got to do the work. Like, you definitely got to spend hours and hours.
It's reps, right? Yeah, you got to get your reps in. I just saw
10,000 hours or whatever you.
Dude, bro, facts. Like I just saw Dave Finch, his recent one with Jim Food. Right?
Yeah,
and it's funny. Like I'm not a fan of Dave Finch's work. I'm not a fan of the heavily rendered style traditionally. But I'm a fan of him and his demeanor, his delivery, his content. You know what I'm saying? I may not watch it but I when he drops something, it's getting a couple of views for me. And so I was watching the most recent one with him and Jim Food, and I'm actually going to start adopting that practice of just I don't know if you saw, but just getting lines down. Like my story has always been I've had to draw on demand. Right, which is a lot of pressure, right, and never really doing it consistently enough because it was always a job here. I'm going on vacation. Okay, I can take this job here. All right, someone's got some storyboards that they need. All right, hey, so can you do it? Yes, okay, I can get that done in a couple of weeks before while I'm working. You dig what I'm saying? Those kind of things. A couple of character designs, and so it was on call, on demand, but never living in the space. Okay, which again, I have certain gifts, kind of like your dad, and without saying too much. I have a high recall that I can't teach. I don't teach my students what I have. I teach them what they need, right? And so that's my cheat code. But I regret very much so not being able. Now I'm kind of all in, and I'm grateful for this time of life, being retired and able to focus and just. My wife said, you can go be a superhero if you want to, babe. You've earned it. Whatever. You want to go be a cape and sit on the rooftop, you can do that. Right?
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
And now this is what I want to do for whatever days I'm blessed with. I want to do this, work on my studio, get the next generation, gold like it was given to us. You see what I'm saying? And just, contribute in some way. But when I tell you it bothered me because of that, what I call that hand to mouth art, right? And I'm being transparent here, like that hand to mouth art.
Yeah.
Not being able to recognize myself often because it was always on demand, and not realizing, because again, a style, I agree with you. That's not something you search for. That's just a place you land. You dig what I'm saying? By reps and exposure and education, you kind of land at your style. And before you look at it, people are like, that's Kizer.
Yeah, it definitely comes from inspiration of all types of things, like fusing all things into one, and it just sort of, comes out as it does. And it's not something that you're looking for. Yeah, it's just more of like sort of shows up, and and it helps you sort of. For me, it helps me illustrate. Like I said, the story in my head. Because like I said, when it comes to animation and illustration, it should always be about that story. You know, what are you
Yes.
trying to tell?
Can you say that again, please? Can you please say that again?
Yeah, it should always be about the story, man. It's
Yes.
you know, how can I get good enough at background art, color theory, anatomy, in order to sort of further illustrate, you know, what is in here, and put it out on whatever type of canvas there is, whether it's on a Procreate, on an iPad screen, or on paper, you know,
I love
or a canvas, you know, that you put up on a wall.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, like that to me is very important, very essential.
You know, that is the reason I want you to say that twice is because that is actually the cornerstone of the school, which is my personal story. You know, when I first got offered work, there was a group of us that were hand walked over to the DC booth by a player in the industry, and there was 3 artists, one inker, which is an artist, and the writer who's actually my partner in my studio. And we're showing the portfolios, and the other 2 guys were much better artists than me then.
Okay.
Right? They were much better artists than me as far as like rendering and final product. I was the only one that was offered work. Now, mind you, they've all gone on and lapped me as far as the work, because I didn't desire to be in the industry per se. I wanted to be good enough to be in the industry. I always kind of wanted to do my own thing, right? You know, I wanted to know I was good enough. And back then, it was very much you had to be this tall to ride this ride, because Marvel and DC were the gold standard. Back then, it wasn't cool to be an independent. It wasn't cool to be an independent back then, right? And so everybody wanted to be at Marvel and DC. But I got the job offer, which I wasn't even looking for the job offer. There was nothing in my portfolio. There was no Batman. There was no Superman. There was no Spider-Man. It was a small independent company that did not pay me. And I kept on to the covers and the pages and stuff that I was working on. Nothing remotely recognizable. But he saw past that. And I was the stronger storyteller, because that's what my mentor told me. He's like, the key is story, period.
Yeah.
And so even with our students, when they come in and interview for enrollment, because we have a 2-stage interview process, I don't care how good you can draw. It's like, do you have a story to tell?
Yeah.
What's the story that you want to put out into the world? That we can build upon, right?
Mm-hmm.
Drawing, as we both know, is education and repetition.
Yeah.
Drawing at its core, if we just streamlined it, it is simply education, repetition. But storytelling, that's the heavy lifting. You know what I mean? It's much more complex. You know?
Yeah. Because my father is a playwright, I've as a kid sort of came up, you know, always being sort of attracted to story, and then, you know, watching movies, like some of my favorite movies, of course, that some of them may not have been you know, critically acclaimed. But to me, I thought they still told the story. Like Back to the Future. Back to the Future is like, one of my favorite movies. And then the second and third, I thought were just very sort of, they complemented the first one just right. You know, one of the best trilogies in the world. And then the first and second Terminator. James Cameron is always doing some interesting things. Of course, Christopher Nolan. But to me personally, when it came to those movies, even though the graphics were exceptional, the stories were even more so. You know, and my nephews, especially my one nephew who is very much into art, we broke down Inception and you know, and pretty much every single one of Christopher Nolan's movies, you know, because a lot of his movies deal with time,
right?
You know, and I wanted to, and he's also very much into science, so I wanted to kind of like you see how he incorporated time into the stories that he was creating, and he was able to make those into movies. It was like my nephew asked me, I was like, "Oh, I don't know really what I want to do creatively. I know I'm creative, but I don't know." So I was like, "Okay, sit down here so I can break down some movies for you." Right. And so we first got into Sergio Leone, and then got into Christopher Nolan. So that he could understand that these images on screen aren't just sort of random.
Right.
They're there for a reason. Even the actors are staged in a certain area so that lighting they can convey something. They can help to tell the story. Yeah. But that's always been sort of my what I attract to is the story of everything.
I love it. I'm not going to keep you long. You're so gracious. But again, these are conversations. That's why I said, consider me the Comic Art Club Shay Shay, right? We just talking.
Yeah.
But I do want.
Skip, Skip. Come on, Skip. Bro. Put the glasses back on.
I would love to have one of those. You ain't got no Cat Williams info on you, do you? I could use that little boost on the on the tube.
Come on, man.
You ain't got no truth that you want to put out there on some folks in the craft. It may not get his traction, but you can be Cat Williams here.
My Cat Williams sounds like David Chappelle. Come on, man. Come on.
I'm talking about that Cat Williams shade. I want some of that up over here. Anyway.
Coming up, I wasn't really that much of a Cat Williams fan.
Me either.
And I did like that he kind of told it like it was, like like it is in his head.
Right.
Including Monique. I kind of felt like Cat Williams and Monique were like same type of.
They tag team, bro. That was a tag team moment. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But Monique has been saying that for a long time. She's been saying that for a long time. Granted, I don't rock 100% with anybody really, but if we consider that a broke clock is right twice a day, there was some truth there that's hard to deny because it's coming to the light. So what I want to ask you is, we actually covered some of them. When did you first feel that it began to click for you as an artist? When was it like? What was that saturation? Where like, I think I got this. When did that happen for you?
Man, I never really think I got it. But let me see. Maybe when I was able to draw whatever I was thinking of. It's like, and then like, I was able to do this when I was a kid, but as I got older, because you do this, I've done this so much. It was like when my friends would ask me to draw something for them, I could draw it. Mm-hmm. But, I realized, it's getting better, my artwork, because I'm doing much more study and I'm also analyzing things because I feel like artists are like reality detectives. We kind of like,
I like that. I'm stealing that, by the way. Reality detectives. I'm stealing that. Just FYI.
So we're observing pretty much everything, and we may not know. We may not be car lovers, but we may not. We may understand how a car works, all based on like sort of furthering our storytelling. But yeah, like that's when I realized, okay, I'm getting better at this, and that clicked, especially when I started working in animation.
Okay.
In 2009, like, I'm a study as hard as I possibly can so that they don't send me back to Jersey to become a security guard, because that's what I was doing before I got into the animation industry.
I love that.
I was working guarding sea vessels that came from other countries that was bringing in cars and merchandise, very expensive merchandise. And that's what I was doing.
You were that guy that gets killed in the action movies on the deck when they're on the dock and the security's there, right? You're the guy that the assassins take out. The guy who's just there guarding the stuff.
Hey guys, what do you guys do? You can't come in here. But
you're a security guard number one in the credits. Security guard number one. Security guard number two.
I don't even get a name. I don't get Ron or something like that. But yeah, I was making sure that stowaways wasn't getting off those ships and ending up in, I guess our part of the world, or people were getting on the ship. I was very stern, very, very strict.
Very rigid.
When it came,
maybe you should have been a cap. Man.
Yeah,
maybe you missed your calling.
Yeah. even with
you were that security guard. Show me your hands. Go ahead, get up against the wall.
Yeah. With the
officer, I'm just
Yeah. I mean, some of these Italians, I tell you, they sound just like the Sopranos. Like, hey, what are you telling me? You tell me I can't get on this side of the trip. I mean, because I don't have my ID. Come on.
I dig it. Like, I dig it.
I said, you gotta go get your ID, sir.
Right.
Like, come on. What are you telling me over here? I was like,
outstanding.
But when I was at work, I would take stacks of paper to work and draw pictures on Xerox paper.
Wow.
And when I got home, I would scan those drawings in, color them up in Photoshop, and kind of describe the little, idea that was in my head on reason why I drew and colored it this way.
Wow. That's funny that you say that. I have a security guard story similar. I was out of the military, struggling, got hired as a security guard at a hospital in Kentucky, where I met my wife, and I'm downstairs in the administrative offices, which no one's supposed to be there at night. Yeah. And I wasn't like full bore into comics again, getting out of the military. I kind of like dabbled, right? Yeah. Fair weather. So I remember going to the store and I grabbed, and I forget, it was Valiant Comics. It was Solar Man of the Atom.
Oh yeah.
And it was drawn by Barry Windsor Smith. Oh, right. So I went into one of the offices and grabbed a couple of stacks of Xerox paper, and I'm sitting at my post, and I'm just drawing, and I'm kind of in the flow state. You know what happens when you get into that flow state? Just kind of, Now, mind you, I'm on duty.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And all I hear is, and I look up, and there's this portly little gentleman with a hospital name tag, right? And he says, "What you doing there?" And I just knew I was fired, man. I just knew I was fired. I was like, oh my gosh, this is not gonna look good. And before I could say anything, he grabbed it and he looked at it and he said, "Oh," and he gave it back to me and he walked away. I just started packing up my stuff. I'm like, I'm about to get a call from the security office, right? And he comes back, and I actually have it in the drawer here behind me. But these are kind of these benchmark moments that we kind of experience as an artist. Will kind of let you know that you. And I hadn't met my mentor yet. I'm fresh out of the military, so I'm not back in Chicago yet. And I'm just doing what I always did as a kid, just drawing from memory and trying to mimic someone and learn through mimicry, right? So he comes back and he hands me this card, and on the card, again, it's right in my drawer behind me. If I would think to tell us, I would have had it out already, because I've kept it ever since. On the card was Exo Man of War by Joe Quesada. And the name on the card was Kevin Van Hook.
Right? Wow. Okay.
The editor-in-chief of Valiant Comics.
Yeah.
I looked at the name tag of the gentleman, Bill Van Hook, his brother.
Wow.
He's like, "This is my brother. Give him a call." You have a, and I'm like, and I just went scrambling because I knew nothing about how comics were made or like that. But I won't get into the whole story. But that security job, man, that security job is like, you get it in when you can. When you really, I'm always like looking for that in our students, like, not so much how much are you drawing, but when are you drawing?
And and what kind of blue collar job, if you're working a blue collar job, will allow you to do it? And see, I feel like a lot of security guard jobs give you allow you the time in order to draw, some stuff. Spend a little bit of time on your craft.
Yeah.
Well, so that's what I was doing with, because when the gate wasn't open, and I didn't have to guard the ship. I mean, well, I was guarding the ship. It was just that the gate was closed, and I was spending a lot of times sort of there without having to do anything. So I was like, I might as well just bring a little small black and white television to work with me and some Xerox paper and just draw.
Why not?
And that's exactly what I did.
That's how.
Maybe a tuna fish sandwich or something like that.
Dude, that carried me years later into the squad car. You know what I mean?
Like,
when I was in the
so right after that, because I was posting those pieces online, it got the attention of people in the animation industry, Warner Brothers especially, and they called me up out of the random. I don't know if you saw any of this in the other interviews, but I mentioned this a lot, man, because you don't realize who's watching.
Right.
But yeah, they just called me up out of the random. I still don't know how they got my number.
The beautiful thing is, we who cares, right? The beautiful thing is that you gotta remember I'm pre-internet generation, and so I've seen the transition, right? I first got on Marvel's radar, and I'm very specific with my words. I got on their radar at 13. At 13, my godmother, who's always been a huge supporter of my art. My mom had me at 15 years old. And so her and my mom were best friends in high school. And so, she was my godmother. And Irish, I love her to death. My mom passed, but she's still here. And my godmother's still here.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I'm 13, and now I'm kind of getting into comics, but I don't have access to them. I can't drive. There's just a spinner rack at the local convenience store that's not updated. There's only updated like once every 3 months. You know, and so I was into Mark Silvestri. I just thought he was just like, again, small G God tier level, right? Still do to this day. Even though largely you won't tell my work, again, energy, draftsmanship, storytelling, right? And so I just did what I did, and I mimicked what I saw, had no real context or real clue as to what was really going on. And so my godmother come by, and I showed it to her, and her sister was the lead art director at a major ad agency in Chicago called Leo Burnett. I don't know how big they are now, but at the time they were like global. Okay. Yeah. And she had headed campaigns like The Softer Side of Sears, Dove, The True Beauty, that was her. And her husband was art director for Coors. And so they went to art school, the whole 9 things. My godmother was an investment banker. And so she's like, let me see if there's something here. So she takes copies. She gives them to Maureen, her sister. Maureen went to school with somebody who's an assistant editor at Marvel in New York. And so they faxed the stuff there. And, back then, how slow information moved. That's why this is an amazing time to be an artist, in my opinion. Because I remember how slow things moved. And so fast forward like a week or 2 later, I'm downstairs and Mama yells my name as only Mama can. Boy, what? Marvel? What's a Marvel? And she's like, boy, you said something. I was like, no. I said, godmother. She's like, oh, I'm listening. She's like, we were wondering if he's willing to do some samples. She says, that boy only 13. Right. Yeah. And Mom killed that right then and there. You know what I'm saying? She killed that right then and there. And so it took years before I circled back, but I wasn't ready. And they didn't know who I was. They didn't know what I was doing. Again, you got to look at the disconnect. I'm not even saying, trust me, folks, I'm not saying I was ready at 13. No. Okay. I was just copying what I saw. Huh?
I said you could have been the youngest.
Because
Joe Mad started in his teenage years after they gave him a little bit of a chance, right?
Right.
On the Marvel Presents or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and he was only, what, 15 or something?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
I was like, dang it. You could have been like,
Mama stepped all on that, bro. She stepped all on that. She wouldn't have no part of it, And I think they were a little leery too. It was like, well, let's have him call us when he's a little older. That was the end of the conversation.
And what color is he, by the way? I just.
I love that, man. I love it.
Yeah. I don't think they knew that me and Chris Copeland. Maybe they knew Copeland was black when they hired him.
Yeah.
But they hired Chris first from the internet. We were like test.
Okay. You were the beta test.
Yeah, for like okay, let's do this. Let's hire people from the artists from the internet and see if that works out. If it does, then we're gonna hire other artists. And so we were the first guys to be hired from in the animation industry from the internet, and we were black, so that was different.
The reason that's important. Let me go in a little bit, and you may be aware of this, but entertain me. There was a study done by UCLA. It's online, back in 2019, right? Outlining the racial demographics in the creative industries across the spectrum, right? From concept to animation to comics, the whole 9 yards. And black creatives comprised total less than 5% of the industry as a whole. That's, so when you think about comics, animation, toy design, character design, video games, whatever, that lets you puts it into scope how small that is. And out of that 5%, less than 2% were black males. The majority was black females.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's significant, man. That's trailblazing, bro.
Yeah. I was, I didn't realize it until later on that, we were not only the first to be hired from the internet, but the first blacks.
That's telling, man. That's telling. And people don't like to have that's an uncomfortable conversation because the world wants America. We want the world to think we're further along than what we are. You dig what I'm saying? And you and I both know, because I'm sure. Again, your point of reference far outpaces mine. We know that there's a whole lot of talented brothers and sisters out there, man.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean.
I was telling somebody that who was that a couple of days ago. I forgot who it was, but in California there are so many exceptional and very talented Mexican Americans. But if you look at the animation industry, you don't see any Mexicans at all.
Right.
Like no Mexican Americans.
Wow.
You don't see any person just coming up to you and say, "Yo, Vato, how you doing, bro? Like, I really like your stuff, man."
Right.
Which I would love,
Right.
But yeah, you don't see that, and you also don't see too many African Americans.
Yeah. Let me tell you,
it's mostly just Caucasian and Asian.
Absolutely. Caucasian and Asian. When I had John Boy on, he made a comment. I don't know if it's on the pre-show or during the show. I can't remember. But he was like, and at the risk of sounding like this is not a humble brag, so please understand. This came from him. He said, "Solo, man, you were so good." He said, "You are so good." He said, "You would have been one of the greats today." And I had to disagree. I said, "John Boy, I have to push back on that." So I got to push back on that. I said, objectively speaking, I said, and I appreciate the compliment, but again, I'm a pragmatist. I said, and I knew it then in my 20s, because I've always been a little bit militant. This X has been with me for a while. This Malcolm X hat, right? I've always been had a little bit of a militant thread. There's my whole collection back over there, different colors. But so I got to push back on that a little bit. I said, name me, in your experience, not subjectively, objectively, based on this criteria, put on a major title for the expressed intent to push units, right?
Yeah.
That is being paid a premium rate. So based on that, name me one A-list black artist in comics. And he couldn't. When I outlined it like that, I'm like, we have some B-listers, right? That based on that criteria. But when I say A-list, no, that they're on books like Joe Mad with Ultimates, right? Remember when he did Ultimates?
Yeah.
We know that his page rate at that point, it was through the roof, okay? And so what did they do? They put him on the first 5 issues. First 4 or 5 issues to launch the title. Yeah. And then they shift it. And that's what I mean. Somebody who's by name recognition and popularity, you put them on a book, sales guaranteed. Not saying they're not good. And he couldn't give me one. He said, so I never thought of it like that.
I mean, there's not that many black artists. But,
it's not. They're good. Like, I love Ken Lashley. I love Ken Lashley.
Now Olivier
Ka-Pow.
When I first saw his work, it kind of like was a fusion between Travis Charest and Jim Lee.
Yes.
But he also had his own.
But he started in animation too. Most people don't know that. He started in animation over in France,
Yeah. But Olivier, and then what's the guy that did the X Factor books? Some of the X Factor books. Back in the 90s.
Larry Stroman?
Yeah.
Larry Stroman. See? Larry Stroman. His style was like just energy, man. Just energy and just beautiful to look at, man. Yeah. But even like Olivier Ka-Pow, as much as I admire his work, we don't see a lot of them.
Well, that's on purpose. That's intentionally. He doesn't really. He does his job and then he just kind of goes away and takes vacation.
I can believe that. I can believe that. I can believe that because I have posters of him here and in my office. But by and large, there's not a lot of us. You dig what I'm saying? It's not a lot of us. And outside of Ka-Pow, I can't really based on that criteria. Do I think I can't name but I can think Spanish, Asian. You understand what I'm saying? I can name a bunch of those that they're heavily promoted in the previews and at the show. Peach Momoka.
Sanford Green.
I love Sanford. Sanford. Another one who would know me if he saw me, wouldn't know me by name. I love Sanford. He's a good dude.
Sanford. Every time back in the day, especially every time I was saying, "Hey, I want you to color something of mine," I was like, "Oh, okay, I'll do that." Yeah. And he would never pay. Sanford would never pay. He's the nicest guy in the world. But I mean, I've never gotten cash from him.
I think we're having our Cat Williams moment. Tell it, Kaiser, tell it.
And I remember one time I spent like 2 days on drawing a ton of characters that he had drawn. And I was like. And he took it to some conventions, and he made a ton of money off of it. I was like, "Where's my cash, man? I'm out here, as a security guard. Come on, bro."
Well, dude, let me tell you something. I have a lack of appreciation story, and again, I'm not really. I don't care who it offends, but I was part of the pitch to bring He-Man back to comics. Right, I was approached by one of my guys. When Val Staples, I don't know if you saw The Toys That Made Us, right? When they did the He-Man one on Netflix, right? He's on there. His name is Val Staples. You may know Val. I don't know how he's moving now, but at the time he was a little more than a colorist, right? And somebody had approached me and said, "Hey, Solo, do you mind contributing a piece of work trying to get the He-Man license to do the comics?" I still have the piece. And so I'm like, well, can I kind of have fun with it? Because, that's my generation. I said, does it have to be, He-Man as it is? Can it be like, can I tell a story, right? With the piece.
Yeah.
And so I did a piece and it shows Skeletor basically sitting on a throne inside of Grayskull with Evelyn next to him, a iteration of Beastman, Blades, and Panther, right?
Yeah.
And I did it for free. I did it for free. I'm like, this is cool. I'm working in law enforcement, so it's not like I was starving for the cash. Well, fast forward like a year or so passed. I didn't hear nothing. I didn't get nothing. So Wizard World runs around and I see them there. And oh yeah, man, we're about to crank out the book. They had the displays. I'm like, no one even called to say thank you.
Yeah.
But I was also the only black guy. You know what I'm saying? Of that whole process. I'm like, I'm not even asking for, no one even called to say, hey, Solo, man, it was a success, man. Thanks for your contribution, man. It helped. And my guy who was part of it, you know, because we talk, you can't be a friend of mine if we just can't have a real conversation, right? That's just how I am. I don't play along to get along. We have to be able to go there and still survive it, you know, the uncomfortable stuff. And so I said, hey, man, I said, what was up with that, man? That's kind of foul. He's like, Solo, man, my bad. And mind you, he was working on the book. I'm like, I wasn't even looking to work. I said, but you didn't even hit me up and say, and you were the one who asked. You know, I did it because you asked. You didn't, hey, Solo, man, we got it. Thanks for your stuff, man. You know, and I would have been happy just with that. I was not expecting money. It was a friend of mine who said, help us out on this. And I keep the piece, and it kind of reminds me, you know what I'm saying? Like, okay, this is the business, and people, when you know, you have to protect and advocate for yourself. That's okay. You have to advocate for yourself.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, like certain animation studios that do that. I don't know if it's because I'm black, but it's definitely they don't really treat artists the way they should. They'll just like tell you to do something, and then you do it, and they're like, you don't get any sort of feedback or anything. They just kind of go away. And then later on, you realize, oh shoot, they use that for their promotion.
Yes.
And I'm like, and that has happened a number of times. I did some stuff for Sideshow Collectibles.
Okay.
And I'm thinking it's never going to come out because they're not.
You heard nothing. Crickets.
Yeah, I heard nothing back from them. Then I see statues, like, or what do you call it? I don't think they call it statues or whatever. But
the maquettes.
The maquettes. And I'm like, you know, you guys didn't say anything. You know, I mean, like, just, you know, they just took it. And I realized also that.
That's all you heard.
Pretty much, yeah. It was like, you know, the cricket warriors. You know? But yeah, I was like, sort of, I heard absolutely nothing from any of these guys. But I realized that I was doing the work much faster than most artists that was supposed to be turning in the stuff. I was like, okay, I'll do it in a day, and then I'll turn in like these 4 different versions in one day because I thought maybe they didn't have time. They didn't have any time to wait, but they did. They had all the time in the world. You know?
And you're providing a premium service with excellence, efficiency, you know, and hitting the marks, and
they were producing this stuff. You know, but no feedback until I actually saw this stuff on Instagram, and it was it's crazy, man. So that's how it is.
I don't think people fully realize how important that is for the artistic psyche. A lot of times, because let's just be honest, we are oftentimes, despite our bravado and our swag, there is still that need for validation, right? I don't want to call it insecurity, but you want to be validated, you know, in the work that you produce. And just the acknowledgement that your work was appreciated, right? You know, that the effort was, that helped move the needle. Okay. We still want to get paid, but when you don't at least give us that, you know what I mean? That's kind of like a different level of insult, in my opinion. You know, I take a little bit more offense to that. You know, it don't take much, man. Stroke the ego a little bit, just a little bit. You know, you know, we ain't got to go too deep.
I just want to know that. I guess in some ways I'm like, did I do a good job on that? What's the word? Like, give me some word back. You know?
Give me some feedback, man.
You know, because I'm like, you just kind of leaving me hanging over here. And that's one thing I don't like is like it's silence.
The silence is deafening, man. You know, because we are waiting. We want to know what you think. It's still almost like, you know, Little Kaiser with Dad. Is it good? Do you like it? we all have that. We never kind of get away from that. Granted, you're not my dad, but I still want. Did you like it? Was it good?
Yeah.
Tell me what you think about it. We want that fuels us moving forward. And we don't get that, we feel some kind of way about it. I know I do.
Yeah.
I'm
about to go downstairs watch some Jeopardy with my father.
Absolutely, man. Just really quick. And so let me breeze through these really quick. As a developing artist, you are constantly honing your craft. What is one thing that you learned early as an artist that helped you take major steps in your development?
Shoot. That's a good one. Let's see. Just sort of like getting to know other artists that do different things. Like background art, prop art, storyboard art, character design. Sort of working with other artists that did so many different types of things was, of course, a huge change from coming from Jersey, where you couldn't find anybody who kind of did or was interested in the type of stuff that you're interested in. So, working in animation with all these different types of artists, I learned so many things by being nosy. Mm-hmm. When it came to what they did. So I was like, if I'm not working as a storyboard artist or a character designer, I can maybe work as a background artist or a prop artist or whatever else.
I love it.
Learning as much as you possibly can.
I love it. Always learning, man.
Because you want to do it anyway. So
absolutely. Okay, next really quick question. I'm going to rapid fire these because we don't want to miss Jeopardy with Dad. And trust me, I spend time with my sons all the time. What would you tell the younger you if you could go back and share some wisdom? What could you have handled differently? What would you tell? You got a time machine, you got Back to the Future. What would you go back and tell young Coran?
Have fun. Even though I'm having fun, I just like have even more fun and at what you do. Don't cry at all, because I used to cry sometimes when I was a kid because I wasn't able to get like some of this. As a kid, I wasn't able to get some of that stuff, the look that I wanted. It was like I remember drawing this Gambit, and he was supposed to be in this action pose. And I was like, just couldn't get it right as like a 12-year-old kid.
Okay. I love it.
And I was like, just take it easy. Calm.
Relax a little. Breathe. Woosah. Right.
And breathe a little bit.
I dig it.
And have fun.
Have fun. All right. In your own words, I like to give everyone a chance to brag on themselves a little bit. I think the confidence, we know everything's a confidence game. Everything. In every career, law enforcement, art, it's a confidence game. They won't believe it if you don't believe it. And so with that being said, in your own words, what are your artistic strengths?
Observation, probably. Just sort of like analyzing, like I said, reality detectives, sort of analyzing the reality that I live in and able to sort of construct in sort of just a different way, I guess, so that it's interesting for those who are checking it out.
Right.
Because, one thing that I do get a lot is that, that's something I didn't know I wanted, like putting stuff together, like characters together, that people just sort of, I guess, didn't envision in their head, but they think, wow, that could make for a good story.
Right.
And so, doing that and then making it so that is now something that I do without even trying to do it. I just do it.
I love it.
I like that part of me.
I love it. Now, the flip side of that is, in your own words, again, we are always trying to grow. We're always trying to get better. What's Kizer's weaknesses?
My weaknesses would have to be, not getting to. I mean, this is like definitely a personal sort of weakness, but I'm always working and and never really sort of conversing with people outside of where I'm working. Socially, I don't really get to hang out too much with too many people, which can definitely create anxiety, and not knowing how to talk to or communicate with other people, even artists.
Right.
So
I dig it.
That's the problem.
Thank you for being transparent on that, man. I appreciate that. We already answered some of these, so I'm going to breeze through this next one.
Those are ugly curtains, by the way. That's
all right, man. That's okay.
Yeah,
it reminds me of my granny's house when I was a kid. I get it. As creators, we often suffer from the curse of not enough. What new frontier would you like to explore artistically if time were not an issue?
Say that again. What was that question?
We often suffer from not enough time. And so what new creative frontier would you take the luxury just to explore and play with if time weren't a factor?
Let's see. Ooh, man, these are good questions. Let me see. Just going to like different countries. Japan. I just came back from Abu Dhabi. That was like one of my favorite experiences in the world. Okay. You know.
You went to the sandbox thing?
Huh?
Is that one?
Yeah.
Sandbox? Yeah.
I thought you were there. David Finch was actually there.
I saw, yeah.
And I was like, wow, this is awesome. You know, especially the part where they pay for everything.
I love it.
I love luxury out here.
I love it.
But going on vacation, going to like Japan, and I'm going to Hawaii pretty soon.
Okay.
With a couple of friends of mine.
All right, that's good stuff, man. So basically, just traveling and taking the scenes. And so, last question, really quick: what project or what project would you jump at the opportunity to work on if the opportunity presented itself?
Let me see.
Like they don't even have to ask. I'm there.
Probably a Spider-Man project. I mean, even though I've worked on a number of Spider-Man.
Okay.
You know, I might be working on something Spider-Man, but I can't talk about it.
Right.
That's for a big studio, very big studio, of course.
Cool.
But yeah, Spider-Man, maybe like, creating my own version of that.
Okay.
And then like, what do you call it? Like producing my own live action movie or something.
I love it. I love it. Well, listen, man, thank you so much, dude, for your time. You have been an open book. This has been highly enjoyable, man, and on such short notice. I'm sorry we kind of took long, but I told you it was kind of a conversation. I'm trying to get better.
Yeah.
But when I
pretty cool.
I feel like I'm vibing with somebody, I kind of let it take its course. You know what I mean? Especially when they're talking as the old folks say, talking as good as you are. Boy, you talking good. Okay. And thank you so much, man. Please, I'd love to have you back. Stay in touch. Again, when I tell people about Art2Art, I interview my friends and stuff from the industry, or hopefully make some new ones. And hopefully you'll consider including me in your circle, man, as a potential resource. Because we have a lot of...
Totally. We might have to go on to cons together.
Absolutely, man. I would love to do that, man. And I'm big on communication, so I will follow up with you. I believe in network maintenance. That's what I tell my students. Network maintenance is huge. Absolutely, man. So thank you so much. Listen, you guys, this is Doc Solo from Ka-Pow, the Comic Art Academy, the real art school for real people with real lives, taught by real industry pros. Feel free to check us out. Open enrollment for 24-25 is now underway. And we got some new offerings for people of different ranges of affordability. So check us out at teachyoutodraw.com. And this has been my Art2Art conversation with Coran KIZER Stone. Check him out everywhere at Kizerella or Coran Kizer Stone. Tell people where you're at, what anything. Project City TV, the whole 9 yards. That animation, yes.
Teaching over there. Yeah.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah.
Support this brother. He is a phenomenal talent and I think, in my personal opinion, one of the geniuses of the craft. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate you. And that's it, y'all. Solo out.
And there we have it. Listen, I don't know what I enjoyed the most, whether it was the actual conversation and really getting to connect with this brother. And trust, we're going to be doing some more he and I together. We connected in a very real and genuine way. But I don't know what impressed me the most is his talent and his amenable character, or the fact that he actually, took time to say, hey, man, I got to go spend some time with my dad. And as a father of 4 adult children, that struck a chord with me. It lets me know the impact that his father has had on his journey, even up until this point, and that he still very much values spending quality time with the man who has largely helped him become the success that he is today. And so for that, I salute you, man. And so you enjoy Jeopardy with your dad and tell him that Solo said what's up. And so listen, if you'd like more Art2Art or you have some questions, please leave them in the comments. Even if it's just to say, hey, Solo, I like what you're putting down here. And we're going to be doing a lot more of these interviews, as well as some new content that I've created specifically for Ka-Pow, the Comic Art Academy. Now, listen, if you'd like to learn from me and my team of incredible industry pros, check us out at teachyoutodraw.com and follow us everywhere on social media. Like, subscribe, follow, even here on YouTube or wherever you may be watching. And we are now opening up our doors for enrollment in our adult classes, as well as preparing to launch our newest venture, Ka-Pow, the Prep Academy. The Prep Academy is my love letter to the comic craft, to the young artists, ages 10 through 13 and 14 through 17. So if you're a parent that wants to encourage your child in the comic craft, go to our website and check out about enrolling them into Ka-Pow, the Prep Academy. And for all you adults, we have our 2-year comprehensive course, as well as a new offering that we are presenting to the public, the lecture series, at a much more affordable price that you guys may want to partake of. But if you're in the comic core course, you get all of it. And so check us out at teachyoutodraw.com. Follow us everywhere at Ka-Pow School. And until then, remember, life is short. Live each day as if it were your last, knowing that when all is said and done, all that will ever be remembered is the life you lived, the lives you touched, and the stories you've created. What are you waiting for? Now get to drawing. Solo out.
Ka-Pow.